is Motsane Getrude. I'm the curator of anthropology, and this is the Dipitša Bophelo exhibition, which is a Seabela phrase translating "Pots Alive" in English. This exhibition seeks to celebrate and acknowledge women in the different stages of life in many aspects, and this came about due to the fact that we live in a patriarchal society, and for the longest time women have not been acknowledged and they've not been seen until the 1980s with the rise of feminist anthropology. That's when women were actually being recognized. In this exhibition you do not see labels, which is not really something usual in exhibitions, but the aim was just to celebrate different women from different backgrounds without saying this is a Zulu woman or a Sotho woman. It starts off with this display case which shows that women have been part of the shaping and constructing of life, and there was no better object than a pot, which is a round shaped, well, a lot of pots are round shaped and demonstrate the cycle of life. So pots in many African traditional societies, pots are part of every stage of life. So when a child is born, they are bathed in a pot. When they die, a pot is also broken. And when African people communicate with ancestors, so it plays a role in the living and the dead. So it's always there. In this display, there are pots that come from the early Iron Age, the middle and the late. This is just to show that women have always been there. Women have always been contributing to the building of society. And a pot is used for various purposes. It's used for beer, so in ceremonies or gatherings they use it to drink from. They use a pot to fetch water. They use a pot to cook from. So a pot is just there, hence Dipitša Bophelo. So we get food from a pot and we get water from a pot. But a pot is also made out of clay. Clay is the soil that we walk on. When someone dies, they go back to that soil, hence the title Pots Alive. And it just shows the strength and the resilience. So it symbolizes the woman. The pot symbolizes that a woman can just survive a whole lot of things, like this pot that goes hundreds and thousands of years back. So it's been excavated, it's been there, but it still survived, and we see it today. And then on this one, there are different types of clay. This display case here showcases the art. Given the history of this country with colonization and apartheid, some of the earlier artists were not acknowledged. So it would just be a Zulu woman or a Sotho woman, which is what this exhibition is trying to avoid. So you can see the different names of the artists, but the two in each end do not have a name, but they were taken in 1937, but we still showing the artist's face to say this is one of the artists who made this pots. And the different clays. So this is just to showcase the artists and the different clays that they use. Museum curators, all my predecessors, I think they've done a great job in trying and documenting all this and actually collecting the different clay to show that this is the material that have been used over the years, because some of the societies are no longer making this pot. So this is a good reference, and for people who want to do research, etc., they can come and look at this. So we have everything that goes into making a pot. This display case here is also showcasing the different pots that we house. Well, these ones are from the anthropology collection, but this exhibition, you have objects from the ceramic collection and archaeology. So it's from 3 collections. Although I know which ones are from which group, but we decided that we are not going to label each. So this is just to showcase and the involvement of pots. You can see the colorful ones. They were actually made much later in the 1970s, 1980s, and paint is used, so they were no longer using just the organic material. And then you have the basins that are used for washing hands, and in many cases that's for the head of the household, which would be a man, but it would have been made by a woman. So the woman would take that to the head of the household for them to wash their hands. There is one pot in here that was made by a man. So it's only a few traditional or indigenous societies in Africa where men made pots. In Namibia, you find that among the Mafwe and the Hambukushu. This one is from Malawi. So where men make pots, it's in matrilineal societies, but where women make pots are in the patrilineal. So the reason why that was made by men is because it's from a matrilineal society. But because this is a woman's exhibition, we decided to put that in to show that there are actually societies where women, but they're actually running the society as opposed to many other societies. This display case is dedicated to one artist, Katendi Futso. She's late now, but she made all of these pots. And my predecessor, Dr. Johnny van Schalkwyk, who developed this exhibition, visited the family in 2010. That was the last time we had contact with the family, and her daughter was still making the pots. I'm not sure if she's still doing that today, but she also mentioned that she's unable to make this size because it's almost impossible to make, so she doesn't know how her mother was able to make it. But pottery is also a specialist, so only artists and good artists would be able to make this. They obviously go through training, and for the potters who were making this type of pots from it's not a formal education or training, but it's something that was passed down from one generation to another. I think it's really remarkable. So he's from the Huruche group in the northwest. This display case represents the people of Lesotho, or the Sotho people, Lesotho and Free State. And these beakers are found among the Sotho people. You can see they're resembling a wine glass, so you find them among the Sotho people. And this was influence of the missionaries, and when they see pictures in books, that's when they started making this type of beakers. So they use them to drink beer. This display case, like the one before, that's when potters had moved from just making pots, but getting inspired by different things around them, nature, animals, and so on. And that's when there was also a tourist demand. So potters, artists moved from just making pots, because some people are not interested in just pots. So they were interested in other things that are made from clay, hence this demand. So they would get requests from some tourists to say, could you make this and that, and then they would make that. So this is more for commercial reasons. headrest. Headrests are also referred to as pillows, neck rests, or bolsters, and were used to cradle and support the head at the jawline. One would rest against them while lying on one side. They may not seem particularly comfortable to Westerners, but it should be noted that headrests promote proper spine alignment. This headrest was acquired from the Swati people in Swaziland, now Eswatini, by a Mr. Goch. The exact date of his acquisition is not recorded. However, Mr. Goch donated it to the museum on 12 October 1959. The Swati are one of the indigenous peoples of southern Africa who share close historical and cultural ties with the Zulu. Headrests resembling a cowl like this one are very common among the Zulu and the Swati people. It is so because cattle play a fundamental role in their lives. It may be during rituals or different ceremonies such as marriage. Hence you see the resemblance in this headrest. Headrests have been described as one of the strongest forms of evidence for the commonality of African traditions, from antiquity to the present, and from one end of the continent to another. Scholars have traced interactions between peoples within Africa by studying and comparing extant styles of headrests. Well, until recent times, headrests were used widely in many communities in the south of the Sahara. The earliest known African headrests were discovered in Egypt. However, it is not necessarily an indication that Egyptians were the first to use them, but only suggests that in the dry and sealed environment of an Egypt tomb, examples survived longer than they would have in a damp region in south of the Sahara, where termites flourish. Some of the earliest datable sub-Saharan headrests were found in burial caves of the Tilem people who lived what is today Mali from the 11th to the 14th century. In several areas of Africa, the human head is regarded as the seat of wisdom and knowledge, and as such associated with concepts of power. Headrests as items created to support this precious part of the body, being the head, were consequently revered. For example, among the Luba people of the Democratic Republic of Congo, when the body of the deceased was unavailable for burial, his or her headrest was buried instead. A solid brass armband is called ingota, distinguished by its raised, notched surface. The ingota, a broad band for the forearm, was reserved for the Zulu king, certain individuals who were his advisors and notable warriors. This type of armbands were awarded by the king as a symbol of honor and bravery. Dress was an important means of distinguishing the ally members of Zulu society, and on special occasions the king and other men of rank traditionally appeared in garments fashioned from the highly valued skins. And equally restricted to those of high rank were brass ornaments, which were also worn by certain royal men, select male advisors, and notable warriors. They normally took the form of rings that adorned the neck, the arms, and legs. Unlike iron, copper, which is the main component of brass, was not available locally in any great quantity. Most of it was imported through Delagoa Bay, today Maputo Bay in Mozambique. During the 18th century, the Portuguese, the Dutch, and the British all contested for control of this bay, with varying degrees of success. By the mid-18th century, the British, with their inexpensive trade goods obtained in India, superseded both the Dutch and the Portuguese and established a trading factory on an island in the bay, where they manufactured their own copper bracelets. By the end of 18th century, however, the Portuguese were again firmly in control of Delagoa Bay. They became the prominent suppliers of brass and copper, as well as beads and cloth, which were the primary trade goods sought by the local inhabitants. There are numerous references to unworked brass being supplied by the Portuguese in the form of long rectangular blocks or rings called umdaka. Rough pieces of brass were brought to the Zulu by the local Tonga-speaking peoples living to the north in the vicinity of Delagoa Bay in exchange for ivory tusks, iron, tobacco, and other goods. Evidence strongly supports the contention that neck rings and arm rings were manufactured among the Zulu. A Portuguese trader known as Dinisa reportedly had a store there during Dingani's reign, that is between 1828 and 1840. The Zulu king traded tobacco and elephant tusks for brass neck rings and arm rings, which Tonga carriers transported south to the Zulu region. Other armbands always had to be made at the royal homestead. Africa has one of the long and rich histories in the sciences. The extraction of minerals was practiced in Africa long before the practice was discovered in Europe. The traditional iron smelting highlights the scientific contributions of non-European cultures. It is also worth noting that one of the first mines in the world was located in Africa, in the oldest iron ore mine located in Swaziland, now Eswatini. Bellows were regarded by African smelters and smiths as the most important factors in their work. In many parts of Africa, the iron smelting process was just called blowing the bellows, and competent smiths were referred to as men skilled in bellows. These specific bellows are a form of drum bellows and were collected on 18 July 1975 in Totela, Masamatuna, Namibia in the east of Caprivi from Nelson Boniso. The two pipes of the bellows are made out of Mochanges tree and the drums are covered with deka skin. In all parts of South Africa, the bellows used for smelting and forging iron were of the skin bag type. Drum bellows were reported to be prevalent in many areas of Africa, which includes the Ovambo people in Namibia and northern Botswana. Although iron smelting ceased in Africa after the arrival of Europeans, smithing and forging still continued and still being practiced later on. So there's still much information on the making of bellows for smiths. The earliest evidence of iron smelting in sub-Saharan Africa has been recorded in Nubia 4000 before the Common Era. However, there is a debate over where iron smelting originated in Africa. While some scholars are of the view that iron smelting originated in Egypt, the Nubia, and the rest of Africa, others hold that it actually originated in all these regions independently. Largely goat skin was employed for the bellows. Conversely, some reports mention the use of antelope skin, especially skin of the sable antelope. Both two types of bellows have technical advantages and disadvantages. The drum bellows appear to be, in some respects, a more efficient type, and they are easily operated and durable in handling and in storage, but their manufacturing requires the availability of large diameter hardwork trees and the skill of experienced woodworkers. The skin bag bellows, on the other hand, can be made from leather and horns, materials thus available everywhere in Africa. This may explain the predominance of skin bellows in the poorly wooded region of Africa, south of the Zambezi. The disadvantage of skin bellows, though, is that they have a long resistance to wear and storage, and that their handling needs much more training and effort. But this may not count for much in a labor-intensive economy.